Hi gardening friends, this is Lark and today is Tea Time Tuesday tour of my cottage garden. We're starting inside today and I wanted to show you my inspiration for creating this garden, and it was this wall of windows. And we wanted to have a view through all the seasons in Wisconsin. Even the snow is pretty here. So this is where I spend a lot of time, right in that chair with my laptop, writing and reading and dreaming, and of course having tea. I wanted color, and the poppies are giving me that color right now. I think we saw that last week. And we watched the birds from here also. Up close, I have my jelly feeder for the Orioles. And sometimes the cardinals visit it too. Whoops, I'm going too fast. So we'll take a walk now outside. I just wanted to show you the view from inside the house. Oh, I worked in the garden today, probably like a lot of you. But my husband hired a young man. We advertised on our local website for neighborhood and the local area. And we got a nice young man. Thank you, Jamie. He helped Dave clear some wood today and saw and did some weeding for me. Some of you know I had a fractured wrist in January, and so weed pulling is challenging even now, and it doesn't help that I do yoga daily also. But I do wear a wrist brace, and when I overwork we do Epsom salts and soaking, but I'm getting better. It'll get better, I just have to be smart. These are my watermelon sugar baby. And it's so wet back there, I'm still waiting for it to dry up a little. Okay, where shall we start? Containers are sparse, but they always are here until July because I don't buy mature plants. I start from seed. Aloes, which I use at least a leaf weekly. Mostly on my skin, sometimes in my hair to like a gel. I don't use products on my hair that aren't natural. Big old bird cage, I've had it for years, and then I glued a votive cup on top, of course, of blue. This is my jade. That is from 1973, I think, 72 or 73. And it hasn't been summered outdoors for years because the sun eats the pot and cracks, and I got to pot it up again. So, but this year we decided, Jamie and Dave took it out. Just some of my succulents. You know, they have a hard time inside for the winter here because they're in north windows. Some are in the south. And then I cut them back severely. It's pencil cactus. Cut back my lemon verbena. I have 2 of them. One of my favorite leaves to add to tea. It's one of the most lemony flavorings of herbs is lemon verbena. Okay, spireas. I should take you to the front yard. Okay, I'm going to step down like 3 feet here. Maybe I'll walk back here and then we'll go to the front yard because this time of the year the bushes are starting to really bloom nicely. And we have quite a few Diablo 9 bark, and they're looking pretty. Now this is from our deck, and we didn't want to view our neighbors over there, so Dave put this in and is leaving it branch out, so it acts as a block for when we're sitting up on the deck and under the canopy. So new blooms this week. Let's think about it. I gotta think about it, Lark. Now when the Dame's Rocket starts getting like this, can you see that? And it's going to seed, it will get cut back. And since it's in front on this border, I'll probably cut it to the ground. But if it's in the back of the border, I cut it right below the last blooms, and then it'll bloom again, usually in about July, August. So the Allium Christophii is starting to get more blooms in mass. Those are all reseeds, you guys. That allium likes to reseed. I'm going to have a lot of milkweed. Some I'll pull out. And of course, a lot of it is for the monarchs. Oh, pretty, pretty, pretty. Would you know there's thistle seed or Niger seed in this sock for the finches? And the squirrels don't eat that. They don't like it. But he wants to check it out and see if he likes it. So he jumped from the tree onto there and was hanging. And I know he was going to tear a hole in it, so we kind of scared him. You can see the foliage of the rose campion, which is an annual here, but a self-seeder. It's biannual. So this year, this clump is going to bloom. It'll look pretty, but the foliage is pretty too. Silver and fuzzy, which means it is drought tolerant. Meadow sage is starting to show some blooms. Salvia. And that's a good perennial to cut back and it'll rebloom. If you have patience for deadheading and cutting back, your perennials, most of them, will rebloom. And you see down by the creek, I'll give you a quick walk down there using the zoom. It's so pretty this time of the year. We did take a canoe ride and we got down all the way to Mill Pond and back, but I take it in another month if it doesn't rain substantially. That's not going to be navigatable. You can't get down it. You're going to bottom out on the sandbars. Oh, I know what's blooming this week. The Sweet Williams are starting to bloom. That pretty burgundy. Sweet Williams. And another one blooming is Baptisia or Wild Indigo. Pretty even after it blooms. The foliage is kind of a blue-green, and then all those flowers turn to like a black pea pod. Pretty. The large alliums are starting, the purple ones. Really a dense ball. Trying to think if that's Globe Master. I think that might be it. Globe Master. So in the coming weeks for our Tea Time Tuesday, they'll be getting bigger and bigger. Valerian. Herb. Very fragrant. Ooh, but the root is stinky. Yes, it's the one you use for sleepy time tea, but it is very stinky, so I opt for a different blend for my sleepy time tea. I use hops and, what do I use? Lemon balm, chamomile, and passion flower. No valerian anymore. Catmint. Oh, aggressive, but pretty blue right now, especially in the front yard. If I walk faster, I'll get in the front. The rosebush, Teresa, Boudet. Last week, couple blooms this week. A lot more. Very fragrant. Very aggressive. It's a traveler. I used to dig out all the suckers. Now, not so much. I think you hear that every week, don't you? I'm getting more and more tired. Oh, I wanted you to see the hawkweed in bloom. But at night, late afternoon, it closes up. It's a pretty orange, and you see the foliage stays close to the ground. It's like a rosette, and then sends up these spikes. And it's several flowers. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 flowers are blooming tomorrow morning into the afternoon. But as the sun comes around in the heat, they dry up more or pull themselves in to conserve on water. Maybe I'll find one in the shade someplace. Worked on my shade garden this week, laying cardboard mulch down. Cranesbill. Boy, that plant can take a beating. I cut it down to the ground and it comes back and it blooms again. Nice. Aggressive, but nice. Most of these daisies will get pulled out. One clump will be left to go to seed. So I have more next year. But definitely not all of them. But it's a much needed color in the garden right now, the white. Common iris. You know, I have quite a few pretty iris, but they need transplanting. They are root bound and heaved, and it's on my list to do. But a lot of them won't bloom because I haven't divided them lately. There's another Baptisia back there by the white allium. And it's a young one. But it'll be a good place for a bush. It'll get big. It's only a couple of years old from seed. Oh, do we have anything more back here? You know, your aggressive ground covers, yeah, we complain about them, but can you see here, if I didn't have a ground cover, that would be all dirt around there. I don't have bark, so I guess it isn't so bad. If I don't like it, and if it's going into the path, like over here, I just yank it. Yank it and throw it. I throw it over itself back there. White Nancy, Lamian. Now I'm going to go back there and weed to get out some of the weeds that are in between the lamium or dead nettle. I like White Nancy because this is a sunny area, shady area, except for now. It's about 5:30 p.m. here. The sun is getting lower in the sky. Okay, I don't see anything new. Let's go walk down to the shade garden, okay? Garden art. yeah, you'll see a lot of rusted junk in my garden and glass. And there's a fine line between too much junk and the flowers aren't the predominant thing we look at, and then some art in the garden. So you have to be careful not to use too much. And I'm probably on the edge of using too much. And when I have garden tours, I'm sure there's some people that don't care for it. But it's my type of whimsy in the garden. Now here's something, we're right on the grass path, and he cuts here. And these daisies are flopping into the path because they're within inches of the grass. So the old pine, from a pine tree, the dead branches are excellent for twigging and pushing back plants so they don't flop into the pathways. And it's free and it's natural. So it's not so noticeable when you walk down the path. I was showing you up close. Now here's a flower in probably a day or two is going to be blooming. And I think it's fleabane. I can't remember. I have to see the flower. It's a little white daisy. And it'll be the white after these oxeye daisies are done. So I leave it come up. Here's some more on this side of the path. And I threw some seed throughout the garden. But when your garden is so thick with perennials, not all seed germinates because it doesn't get enough light. Now you see those iris in there? They're being choked out by the sedum. When I have time, I will lift them and rebury them. They're in dire need of it. It's a beautiful white with a deep purple ruffle on it. Maybe one will bloom so we can show you one day on our tours. So the golden grass, doesn't that light up the area in the shade? And the sun just went behind the clouds. But you see the gold of golden scepter, the short hosta, and then it turns into a gold with a green, gold standard, and more golden scepter, and then I don't know what's behind it. Somebody gave me that one. But I worked on my hostas this last couple days, and you can see that I sheet mulched. And next year, I must do it earlier. So much harder doing it when the plants are big. Now, the big hostas kind of mulch the area themselves, but the ones that are close to the ground, the weeds come up through them. The big ones, not so much. All this aggressive plant right here is the obedient plant that is disobedient. It's not Miss Manners. Miss Manners is a pretty good obedient plant. So a lot of this will be coming out. We'll wait for a rain and then I'll do some pulling because I want that Lance Corporal Persicaria to take up more area. And then what'll reiterate the burgundy in that leaf there will be the astilbe that's going to be blooming red next to it. Pretty colors. I had my mom over here today, and what she does for me, 87 years old, is weed the edges for me so my garden doesn't look real messy. Another Sum and Substance back there. Okay, and ferns. And nothing new blooming back there. Goat's beard's going to be blooming. We'll show you that probably next week or in 2 weeks for sure. It'll be a nice white background for those blue angels. Okay, we'll walk and look at bushes, okay? How much time do I have here? Probably about 9 minutes. Woodgelia, Wine and Roses. It bloomed for me because I said I was going to take it out probably, and it said, whoops, we better bloom for Lark. She's going to yank us out. So let's walk. It takes so long for the annuals to look good. It'll look pretty on the back of the shed here, but it's going to take a month. Okay, so we have a screen here of Woodgelia Red Prince. And Dave is so good about every year pruning after bloom somewhat, because this will rebloom, so he's careful. But for sure, on all blooming bushes, taking out no more than 1/3 of the branches to the ground. That way you'll have a thicker bush and not everything up on top. So whenever you have a branch that is thicker than a man's thumb, about, take it down to the ground, and you can take 1/3 of the bush away doing that, and it'll come back lush. So prune after bloom and take out old wood, anything bigger than a man's thumb. This gives us a nice screen over here. Now the only problem when you plant a hedge of all one kind of bush is if it gets a disease, it travels quick, and then you're in trouble. You better hope it comes back. And they do that in streets too. In city streets they'll plant all one tree, and then it gets a disease, like some of the maples did in Milwaukee. And then they have bare streets for a number of years. But doesn't the Woodgelia look pretty? Red Prince. Especially with these sand cherries, taking out 1/3 or up to 1/3, but definitely taking out some of the old wood. So you get a thicker bush instead of a sand cherry tree. And soon the Japanese beetles will be visiting it. They love that bush. Gold flame spireas, and then your Japanese yews, upright. Gold tip junipers. They take a severe pruning too. And then the goldfinger potentellus. This is a 9-bark also, and it looks like a Diablo, but it's a shorter version. I think it might be like Rosy Glow or something shorter. And he will prune those back after they bloom, probably, by a good 2 feet shorter. And then they'll put out new growth, which will bloom next spring. But you gotta prune right after bloom. Catmint. Oh, a nice filler right now. My color is just the leaves on the corabels, which reiterates the burgundy on the 9-bark and the burgundy on the sand cherries and the burgundy of the Crimson King maple. And then when the annuals get big, it'll be orange in there from the marigolds. Now in the center, I showed you a couple videos ago, this is a lot of twigging in here because I have annuals. I have bachelor buttons for the blue after this catmint is cut back, and then orange Mexican sunflowers to go with the orange marigolds that are on this path here. So we got a theme going here with the burgundy. So when we don't have flowers, we still have color. Now this catmint gets a lot less light here, but look at the Diablo. Isn't it pretty? It's a good bush. This is a young viburnum, so we didn't, and he pruned it late last year, so it doesn't have blooms on. But the other one did. It might even be done. And he told me, Lark, your Tea Time Tuesday, you're going to miss the last blooms of the viburnum. It was blooming with this Diablo here. It was so pretty in this corner. But now it's going to seed. That had white flowers on it. Now if we didn't prune it, it would set berries. And that's good. It is good. The birds like it. But then it would get taller for next year, and he doesn't want it much taller, I don't think. And then his burning bushes, and I hate the burning bushes. They're beautiful in fall, but you know, you could plant blueberries there and get the nice red fall color and get a nice harvest of blueberries. So if I was young, we'd start over, yank those out, which one died, but I bet it's going to come back, and put blueberries there. But that's not going to happen. Not in my lifetime. Now here's another flowering bush which gets a lot of shade. It just gets this afternoon late light. And this is the original 9-barks. Pretty little flowers. Gosh, the bees love those. And you can see as it gets closer to the house in that corner, the last one doesn't bloom as much. And then my PG hydrangea tree. Blue carpets are what's on the ground, spreading on the ground here, junipers. Again, you can really whack the heck out of those and they come back. So my arch has your scarlet runner bean. Succulents that went dormant, like dead dormant practically, downstairs. They'll come back. And I cover them with chicken wire for now. Oh, see, something even got in here and got under the chicken wire. I had a pencil cactus right here, and it got under there. So we'll put another one in and tighten up the chicken wire. I didn't think they'd go under there. And more scarlet runner beans, which will be pretty because it gets that red flower on it, produces a bean. You pick the bean and eat it, and then it wants to produce more flowers, so it can try to go to seed. So it goes over this arch, and it will be very pretty. Comfrey that I need to cut back and mulch with. That'll happen in the next couple days, hopefully. My berries, which probably in a few weeks I will have raspberries, tomatoes, and I better say goodbye so I'm not impolite and just cut you off. We'll do a veggie garden when it gets nicer. I just lined some calendula on the edge of here. So I have some orange flowers that I pick and use for my oil infusion. And I thank you for coming to Tea Time Tuesday and visiting me. Take care, my friends. I am happy that you come with me and walk through the yard and gardens. Thank you. And bye-bye.